Wesley Brooks pushed through the heavy glass door of Riverside Community Bank at 3:17 on a gray Tuesday afternoon in November. The lobby stretched before him like a cathedral, polished marble floors reflecting recessed lighting, glass-enclosed offices along the perimeter, the faint hum of whispered transactions and keyboard clicks. His sneakers, purchased for $3 at the Goodwill on 7th Street, squeaked against the tile. The soles were separating from the canvas, held together with electrical tape that left sticky residue on his socks. He clutched a manila envelope against his chest with both hands. The donated jacket swallowed his frame, sleeves rolled 4 times to reveal his wrists, the hem hanging past his knees. His grandmother had taught him to stand straight when entering important places. So he did, shoulders back despite the weight of what he carried. At the main counter, Richard Davison reviewed a commercial loan application, red pen poised above a signature line. 42 years old, 15 years with Riverside Community Bank, 10 of those as branch manager. His tie was silk, his watch Swiss, his confidence the kind that came from never being questioned. Wesley approached the counter. He waited politely, not wanting to interrupt. Richard didn't look up. Wesley cleared his throat softly. "Excuse me, sir." "Nothing." "Excuse me, sir. I need to check my account balance, please." Richard's head lifted. His eyes traveled from Wesley's face down to the taped sneakers and back up. Then he laughed, a sharp, performative bark that bounced off the marble walls and glass partitions, echoing in the high-ceilinged space. The sound made Wesley flinch. "Son, do you know where you are?" Richard's smile was wide, his voice loud enough to carry. "This is a financial institution, not a community center." A woman in business attire at the adjacent counter paused mid-signature. Her pen hovered above the deposit slip. Wesley's voice came out smaller than he intended. "Yes, sir, I know. I have an account here. I just need to check the balance." Richard leaned back in his chair, arms crossed. "You have an account?" "Yes, sir, here at Riverside Community Bank." "Yes, sir." The smile deepened. "How old are you?" 10. Richard glanced at the woman in business attire. She looked away quickly. 10 years old with a bank account. "That's precious." Wesley reached into his jacket pocket and produced a bank card. The plastic was standard issue, slightly worn at the edges, his name printed clearly. Wesley James Brooks. He slid it across the counter. Richard picked it up between thumb and forefinger, examining it like a curiosity. His smirk deepened. "Where did you get this? Did someone give this to you as a joke?" "It's mine, sir." "My grandmother, because we have serious problems with card theft in this neighborhood." Richard turned the card over, held it to the light. "Kids find them in parking lots, try to use them." At the loan desk 20 feet away, a retired man with reading glasses on a chain turned to watch. Another customer entering the bank slowed, sensing drama. Wesley's hands tightened on the envelope. "It's not stolen." "My grandmother Eleanor passed away 9 weeks ago. She left me the account. I have the death certificate and transfer papers right here." He held up the envelope, but Richard didn't reach for it. "Your grandmother," Richard's voice dripped with theatrical skepticism, "left you a bank account." "Yes, sir, and you're here to check the balance." "Yes, sir." "Please." Richard set the card down and typed something into his computer, lips pursed. The keyboard clicks were sharp in the growing silence. Other customers were definitely watching now, transactions suspended, conversations paused. Wesley could feel their eyes on his taped shoes, his oversized jacket. Richard's voice rose slightly. playing to the audience. Kids these days will try anything. You probably found this card on the street, looked up the name, came up with a whole story. I didn't find it. It's mine. I have documentation. We have protocols for a reason. Richard's professionalism was a weapon. His tone reasonable and damning. I can't just let anyone walk in here claiming to own an account. Especially when the story sounds this. He paused. Choosing his word carefully, unlikely. Wesley's voice trembled but held steady. My Uncle Marcus is on his way. He's just 25 minutes out. He's my legal guardian now. Can I please wait? And we can. I'm going to need to freeze this account pending investigation. Richard was already typing. This could be fraud, identity theft. We take these matters very seriously. The words hit Wesley like cold water. Freeze it until we can verify your claim. Richard didn't look up from his screen. Standard procedure. Wesley's eyes welled. He blinked hard, refusing to let the tears fall. His grandmother had told him to be strong, to hold his head up. He reached into the manila envelope with shaking hands and pulled out a letter on lined paper. The kind torn from a spiral notebook. The paper was soft from repeated reading, the fold lines wearing thin. He held it out. She wrote me this before she died. Richard glanced at it. From where Wesley stood, clutching the letter, a few lines were visible in his grandmother's careful cursive. Baby, this money represents 42 years of choosing you over everything else. 42 years of night shifts and double shifts, and choosing not to buy myself things so you could have. Anyone can write a letter. Richard said, I can buy notebook paper at any drugstore. He pulled a form from beneath his counter. I'm documenting this incident. Name, address, and I'll need to see identification. I'm 10. I don't have. Then you'll need to wait for your uncle. Richard's tone was final. You can sit in the waiting area. He pointed to a row of hard plastic chairs near the front window. The kind found in bus stations and unemployment offices. Wesley stood frozen for a moment, the letter still extended in his hand, offering evidence that wouldn't be accepted. The waiting area, Richard repeated. Now please. I have other customers. Wesley walked to the chairs, each step an exercise in maintaining dignity. The plastic was hard and cold through his jeans. He sat, envelope in his lap, letter clutched in both hands, and looked at the clock above the teller line. 3:47 p.m. His phone buzzed. Uncle Marcus, traffic bad, 30 minutes now. Hang tight. Wesley pressed the letter to his chest and watched the second hand sweep around the clock face. Counting down the minutes until someone would believe him, Wesley sat in the hard plastic chair and felt the cold seep through his jeans. The clock above the teller line read 3:47 p.m. He unfolded his grandmother's letter. The paper soft as cloth from being opened, and refolded 1,000 times since the funeral. Her handwriting was careful. Each letter formed with the precision of someone who'd left school in 9th grade, but never stopped believing in the power of proper penmanship. Baby, this money represents 42 years of choosing you over everything else. 42 years of night shifts and double shifts, and choosing not to buy myself things so you could have what you needed. But more than that, it represents a truth I need you to carry with you always. Your worth is not something anyone can give you or take away. It lives in you, placed there by God and by every ancestor who survived so you could be here. You are worthy of respect, baby, always, not because of what's in any bank account, but because of what's in your heart. He pressed his thumb against her signature, feeling the slight indent where she'd pressed hard with the pen. 4:02 p.m. An elderly white man in a cardigan entered, and Richard's face transformed. "Mr. Patterson, how's that grandson doing?" "Still tearing up the little league," the man laughed. And Richard processed his pension deposit with easy efficiency, making jokes about the weather, about the upcoming election, about the new coffee shop downtown. Their transaction took 4 minutes. Mr. Patterson left smiling. Wesley refolded the letter, unfolded it, read the words about worth and dignity. 4:08 p.m. A young teller named Shanice helped a college student open a savings account. Wesley watched her patience. The way she explained minimum balances and debit card fees. How she walked the student through the online banking app. She was thorough and kind. The transaction took 11 minutes. The student thanked her 3 times. Wesley's stomach growled. He'd skipped lunch, too nervous about coming to the bank. 4:15 p.m. A woman in expensive athleisure wear approached Richard's window, and he stood slightly straighter. "Jennifer, good to see you." "How was Cabo?" He processed her deposit. Wesley could see the check from where he sat. Could make out 5 figures, and offered her coffee from the break room. She declined with a laugh. Richard called her by her first name 4 more times. They talked about her trainer, about the new Whole Foods, about her husband's promotion. The transaction took 9 minutes. Wesley ran his thumb over his grandmother's handwriting, tracing the loops of her careful cursive. She'd written this letter 3 days before the stroke, as if she'd known. As if she'd wanted to leave him armor against moments exactly like this one. 4:19 p.m. Shanice glanced at Wesley. Their eyes met for half a second before she looked away, her expression troubled. She helped another customer, an older man depositing his Social Security check. 2 minutes later, she glanced at Wesley again. This time she looked at Richard, then back at her computer screen. Her jaw tightened. She didn't approach. The security guard, a man whose name tag read Frank, stood near the entrance. He was late 50s, with gray at his temples, and 12 years of bank employment on his resume. According to the framed photo, near the door celebrating long-term employees. He'd been standing there since Wesley arrived, had watched Richard turn him away, had watched Wesley walk to these chairs. Now Frank shifted his weight from foot to foot, his hand moving to his belt, then away. He looked at Wesley, looked at Richard, looked at the floor. 4:23 p.m. A woman in her 30s entered with a yoga mat bag over her shoulder. She deposited her check with Shanice, and while waiting for the receipt, she made eye contact with Wesley. Something flickered in her expression, recognition, maybe, or concern. She opened her mouth slightly, took a step toward him, then stopped. She glanced at Richard, at Frank, at the other customers. She collected her receipt and left. The door chimed behind her. Wesley heard his grandmother's voice in his head. The way she'd sounded when he came home crying in 2nd grade, because a teacher had assumed he'd stolen another kid's pencil case. "You are worthy of respect, baby, always. You don't have to earn what you already possess." 4:28 p.m. Richard laughed loudly at something the athleisure woman said, the sound cutting across the lobby like a blade. It was a comfortable laugh, the kind shared between people who belonged to the same world. Wesley felt the sound in his chest, felt how separate he was from that warmth. His phone buzzed. "Uncle Marcus, so sorry, accident on highway, 40 minutes now." "Stay strong," Wesley typed back. "Okay." His throat was dry. He hadn't asked for water. Hadn't wanted to move from this spot. as if leaving the chair might somehow forfeit his place in line. Though there was no line. Just him, just waiting. 4:35 p.m. The waiting became physical. His legs ached from holding still, from keeping his feet flat on the floor instead of bouncing them the way he wanted to. His stomach growled again, louder this time. The dry throat became painful when he swallowed. He was tired in a way that went beyond sleeplessness. A bone-deep exhaustion that came from holding yourself together when everything wanted to fall apart. An older black woman entered carrying a church program under her arm. Shanice greeted her warmly. "Good afternoon, ma'am. How can I help you today?" But when the woman asked a question about wire transfers, Shanice had to direct her to Richard, whose warmth evaporated. He answered in clipped sentences, his smile tight and professional rather than genuine. The woman completed her transaction in 3 minutes. As she turned to leave, she noticed Wesley. Her eyes narrowed slightly, and something passed across her face, a recognition that had nothing to do with knowing him personally. She looked at Richard, back at Wesley, then at the envelope in his lap. For a moment Wesley thought she might say something. She didn't. The door chimed. 4:41 p.m. Wesley counted ceiling tiles. There were 247, arranged in a grid pattern with fluorescent lights between them. He counted the pens at the teller counter. 14, in a cup shaped like a dollar sign. He started counting the squares in the floor tile pattern, but lost track around 200. He started over, lost track again. Frank approached. He stood near Wesley's chair, his shadow falling across the envelope. "You okay, son?" Wesley nodded. Frank's mouth opened, closed. His hand went to his belt again, that nervous gesture. "You need anything?" "Water?" "No, sir, thank you." Frank stood there for 5 more seconds, each one heavy with words he wasn't saying. Then he walked back to his post near the entrance. 4:47 p.m., 1 hour, 60 minutes. 3,600 seconds since Wesley had first approached Richard's window with hope and a manila envelope. Richard finally looked over, made eye contact, held up one finger. 1 minute. Then turned back to his computer screen, typing something that apparently couldn't wait. Wesley stood. His legs were stiff, the muscles protesting. He walked back to the counter, the envelope heavy in his hands, his grandmother's letter folded inside it. Each step felt like walking through water. Richard's expression hardened as Wesley approached, his jaw setting in a way that said the 1 minute had been a courtesy, not an invitation. Wesley's shoes squeaked against the polished floor as he approached the counter for the second time. Richard didn't look up immediately. When he did, he gestured toward a small desk against the wall, away from the main counter. "Let's talk over there." The desk was visible to everyone. That was the point. Richard pulled out a chair, the metal legs scraping loudly. He opened a notebook, clicked his pen 3 times. "Let's start with basics. What's your mother's name? Your father's, where do they work?" Wesley's throat tightened. "My mom died when I was 6. I don't know my father. My grandma raised me." Richard's eyebrows rose. He wrote something down, underlined it twice. "So no parents, and your grandmother just happened to leave you a bank account." The skepticism dripped from every word. Wesley pulled out the folder Uncle Marcus had prepared. Death certificate, account transfer papers, his school ID with the cracked laminate corner. He laid them on the desk with trembling fingers. Richard examined the school ID like it was a forgery, holding it up to the light. This could be anyone's. Across the lobby, Shanice whispered something to another teller. Both looked uncomfortable. Neither moved. Richard stood suddenly, his voice carrying across the quiet bank. I'm freezing this account, pending fraud investigation. This is standard protocol for suspicious activity. But my uncle is almost here. Wesley's voice cracked. He can verify everything. Please just wait. Your uncle. Right, Richard crossed his arms. And I'm sure he'll have a very convenient explanation. Richard leaned forward, his voice dropping to something more intimate, more cruel. What did your grandmother do for a living? Where did this money come from? Wesley was trembling now, anger and hurt mixing until he couldn't separate them. She was a teacher, 42 years. She saved every dollar she didn't spend on herself. Richard's smirk was small but unmistakable. A teacher with this much money, you'll understand why that raises questions. Frank took one step forward from his post. Stopped, his hand went to his belt, then dropped. His face showed everything he wasn't doing. The door chimed. Jennifer, the woman from earlier, walked back in. She saw Wesley at the desk, Richard standing over him, and froze 3 steps inside. Richard picked up the phone at the desk, pressed 2 buttons. Frank, please escort this young man outside. We'll contact the authorities to sort this out properly. The tears came then. Silent, streaming down Wesley's face while he clutched the letter to his chest. He didn't wipe them away. Frank approached slowly, each step heavy. Come on, son. Let's go. Wesley stood. His legs shook. The envelope and letter pressed against his heart felt like the only solid thing in the world. The walk to the door stretched forever. Every transaction had stopped. The woman at the teller window stared. The man waiting for the notary stared. Shanna stared with her hand over her mouth. Jennifer stepped aside as Wesley passed. She looked at the floor. The automatic doors opened. Cold air hit his face. The parking lot stretched out, empty and vast. Wesley sat on the concrete bench, pulled out his phone. The screen was still cracked from when he dropped it that morning, a lifetime ago. He tried to call Uncle Marcus. It rang again. A black Audi pulled into the parking lot. Uncle Marcus emerged, tall in a charcoal suit that fit perfectly without trying. He moved with the kind of quiet authority that didn't need to announce itself. Wesley broke, full-body sobs, everything pouring out in gasps and half-words. Marcus held him, one hand on his back, letting him shake. Show me the letter. Show me everything. Wesley handed over the envelope with shaking hands. Marcus read Grandma Alina's words, her careful handwriting. He closed his eyes briefly. When he opened them, something had hardened there. We're going back inside, together. Wesley hesitated, terror flooding back. Marcus took his hand. You did nothing wrong, let's go prove it. They walked back in. Marcus's presence changed the air immediately. People straightened, looked up, paid attention in a different way. Richard saw them. His confident expression flickered. Marcus approached the counter, Wesley at his side, standing straighter now. I'm Marcus Brooks. This is my nephew Wesley. I believe you've been assisting him. Richard's professional mask slid into place. Sir, there are protocols when a minor presents suspicious. Suspicious. Marcus's interruption was quiet, devastating. My mother worked 42 years as an elementary school teacher. She died 9 weeks ago. She left her savings to her grandson. What exactly is suspicious about a grandmother's love? A woman emerged from the back office. Her nameplate reading Patricia Chen, regional manager. She'd been alerted by the commotion. Marcus extended his hand. Marcus Brooks, Chief Investment Officer at Apex Financial Group. Richard's face drained of color. Let's check that account balance, Marcus said quietly. Right now. On screen, Patricia nodded to Richard, who typed with trembling fingers. He turned the monitor. $523,847.19. The silence was absolute, crushing. Marcus let it sit for 5 seconds. 10. Then, my mother saved $12,472 per year for 42 years. Every dollar she didn't spend on herself, she saved for him. Every vacation she didn't take, every dinner out she declined. Every new dress she skipped, that's not suspicious, that's love. Patricia's voice was tight with controlled fury. Mr. Davison, my office, now. I was following protocol for, you weren't following protocol. Marcus still spoke quietly. You were performing cruelty, there's a difference. Patricia turned to Marcus. Mr. Brooks, please accept my deepest apologies. This is unacceptable. Richard was escorted to the back office. The door closed with a definitive click. Frank approached Wesley. I'm sorry, son. I should have spoken up. Why didn't you? Frank had no answer. He walked away with that question hanging between them. Jennifer still stood near the door, frozen, witnessing accountability unfold. Shanice approached, her voice small. I'm so sorry, I was afraid to. She couldn't finish. Marcus handled the account transfer smoothly, professionally. Papers signed. Accounts verified. Everything Wesley should have received an hour ago. As they left, Wesley looked back once. The bank looked different now, smaller somehow. In the car, Marcus said, Your grandmother would be proud of how you carried yourself today. I cried. Dignity isn't about never crying. It's about standing back up. 8 months later, Wesley wore new shoes to his new school. But the $3 sneakers stayed in his closet, right where he could see them. Grandma's letter lived in his desk drawer, worn soft from reading. Richard worked at a check-cashing store now. Banking had closed its doors to him. Frank quit 2 weeks after that day. He couldn't live with his silence. Shanice volunteered with youth financial literacy programs. Teaching kids their worth extended beyond any balance. Jennifer joined the bank's diversity committee, spoke at community events about what she'd witnessed. Patricia implemented mandatory bias training, mystery shopper programs, zero-tolerance policies. The Wesley Brooks Memorial Fund was established. 2 scholarships yearly for students pursuing education degrees. Wesley helped select recipients each year. He read Grandma's letter one more time, her handwriting still clear, still certain. Dignity isn't given by others, baby. It's something you carry inside. Carry yours with pride, and help others carry theirs. That's how we change the world.